Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC, your home for all the biggest Liverpool transfer news and updates. Today we've got huge developments around Alexander Isak, a surprise twist with Marc Guehi, and even a fresh message from Darwin Núñez as the transfer saga heats up. Stick around, because this story is full of drama, price drops, and big decisions that could shape Liverpool's season. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. Liverpool handed new Alexander Isak and Marc Guehi transfer deadline. Liverpool remain interested in Alexander Isak and Marc Guehi ahead of the final week of the transfer window. Liverpool predominantly prefer to get their summer transfer business done early, but they could still make a late splurge in the window for the fourth year running. The Reds have already overseen their busiest and costliest window, adding 9 new players to Arne Slot's ranks. Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong, Georgi Mamardashvili, Giovanni Leoni, Armin Pexi, Will Wright, and Freddie Woodman have all arrived, with such an outlay totaling over 320 millimeters including add-ons. Meanwhile, they have banked 227.8 tiers after selling Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cowiman Kelleher, Nat Phillips, Jarell Quansah, Luis Diaz, Tyler Morton, Darwin Núñez, and Ben Doak. With just over a week to go until the transfer window closes, such a total could rise further with the likes of Kostas Tsimikas and Harvey Elliott, still possible exits. Yet supporters will be more focused on potential incomings, with Liverpool well documented to still be interested in both Alexander Isak and Marc Guehi. Speaking ahead of Monday's trip to Newcastle United, Slot admitted he does not foresee an overly busy end to the transfer window for the club. "I don't think it will be a busy end to the window, because that would mean I would be unhappy with the squad, and I am happy with the squad we are having," he said at his pre-match press conference. "I say having 2 players for each position is ideal, but sometimes less is more so. You are not disappointing players. I am happy with the squad, but if we think there is a player who can really make us better, then this club has always shown they can bring them in. But it needs to be everything we want, right transfer fee, right position, and the player wants to come to us." However, he has also already admitted that he believes his side still need at least 1 new attacker following the departures of both Diaz and Nunez, as well as the tragic death of Diogo Jota in a car crash at the start of July. "I see Hugo Ekitike mainly as a number 9 that could also play from the left or play together with another number 9, he told Sky Sports ahead of his side's Premier League opener against Bournemouth. "Because it's clear that with Darwin gone and Luis Diaz gone, and even last season we had 5 or 6 options, I think. Again, Diogo, I need to mention him as well. So yeah, we need to have 1 more attacker, at least." Evidently, Isak would be that attacker of choice if the transfer window ends as Liverpool hope. The Swede has made it clear that he considers his Newcastle United career over and is effectively on strike as he looks to force an exit, with the Reds his destination of choice. Liverpool had an 110-meter bid rejected earlier this month, and are understood to be ready to return to the table should they be given encouragement from the Northeast that a deal could be possible. Whether such encouragement is forthcoming in the final week of the transfer window remains to be seen. Isak made headlines earlier this week when he released a statement on Instagram, insisting that his Newcastle career was over as he cited broken promises behind the scenes. Liverpool Alexander Isak, alternative left fuming at current club, but transfer has a catch. The latest Liverpool FC news and views amid speculation around Alexander Isak and potential alternatives. It is blatantly obvious Liverpool want Alexander Isak, and Isak wants Liverpool. The only problem with this union becoming official before the transfer window closes is a Newcastle United-sized hurdle. There are 8 days left of the summer transfer window if Liverpool are going to be successful. In a saga that has now dragged on for a month publicly, although by some accounts it would seem much longer behind the scenes. So far, the only attempt to sign Isak, a 110-minute offer, was met by the strongest resistance, and there have only been mere hints that Newcastle's hardline stance could falter. Head coach Arne Slot and captain Virgil van Dijk are the two within the Anfield dressing room to acknowledge that maybe there is the requirement for more attacking depth before the opportunity is gone. Therefore, it is easy to see the Reds' predicament. Either they get Isak or they don't. That is simple. Then it becomes a case of Liverpool deciding if they choose to wait for the Swedish international or switch to any alternative in the final days of the summer. It remains a mystery as to who. That might even be at this very late stage, but whatever the club do, they would have to be sure of it. In Slot's own words, on Friday, "Having two for each position is ideal, but I'd sooner have less than more, as you'd have to disappoint a lot of people. But if there are players who can really make us better, then the club has shown they can bring them in, but only if things are right, the right player, fee and position. A player of quality, perhaps one with Premier League pedigree, a suitable amount of money and in the position to match. How about looking at West Ham captain Jarrod Bowen? The 28-year-old may be a means to an end, having served his current club wholeheartedly for the past 5.5 years. Over that period, he has registered 74 goals and 51 assists, guiding the Hammers to Europa Conference League glory in 2023. Sees Football Observatory estimate Bowen's price to be within the range of 40 millionen to 47.0 million, which is way below the total. The Reds have shown willingness to pay for Isak's services. It remains to be discussed what kind of wage demands he would have or the length of contract he would want, as Liverpool would be well aware the player turns 30 next December. Positionally, Bowen can offer Slot the exact same as a man who he would effectively be replacing in their squad, Luis Diaz. He's a winger by trade, though as his career has taken shape, the forward has naturally towards a central role, leading the line for various managers at the London Stadium. Alexander Isak price drop mooted as Liverpool sees signs of Newcastle's resolve weakening. Liverpool may not have to pay $150 million for Newcastle United striker Alexander Isak, according to a source, who has also revealed whether Arne Slot and Richard Hughes have any alternative in mind should the Reds miss out on the Swedish star. Isak has gone nuclear with his desire to leave Newcastle for Liverpool ever since Team Talk's transfer correspondent Fraser Fletcher reported on July 24th that the striker has told last season's Carabao Cup winners that he wants to move on. Liverpool have had a bid of 110, 127, 149, plus add-ons for Isak already rejected, while the 25-year-old has already agreed on personal terms with the defending Premier League champions. This week, Isak went public with his desire to leave Newcastle, revealing on Instagram that the Premier League club have broken a promise to him. While the Magpies refuted the suggestion in a public statement, they maintained that manager Eddie Howe would welcome him back in the team. Sources have told Team Talk that Liverpool are planning an imminent bid of 130 meters, 150 meters, 176 for Isak, even though Newcastle are said to value the striker at 150 meters, 173, 200 freighter. The Liverpool Echo's chief Liverpool FC writer Ian Doyle, though, has claimed that there are signs that Newcastle's stance on Isak is softening, adding that the deal could be sealed for 130, 150 meter, 176 meters. Doyle told the Liverpool Echo, "Every club has a contingency plan, but there is a nagging suspicion. Liverpool are intent on signing Alexander Isak and won't settle for anyone else. Whether that's a wise move will become more apparent over the next 9 days. Intriguingly, there could be parallels to the Virgil van Dijk situation if Isak doesn't arrive this summer. After the expected move for Van Dijk before the 2017-18 season was thwarted by Southampton, there were relentless calls for Liverpool to sign another centre-back. The club resisted, and sure enough, the Holland international was in situ less than 6 months later. Isak looks like he will come to Anfield sooner rather than later, and there have certainly been signs of Newcastle's resolve weakening in recent days. Might a $130 million deal sort it? It wouldn't be a shock. Eddie Howe makes fresh claim over Alexander Isak transfer situation. We certainly can't. Eddie Howe makes a fresh claim over the future of Alexander Isak, who wants to join Liverpool before the September 1st transfer deadline. Eddie Howe believes Newcastle United's owners won't sanction the sale of Alexander Isak to Liverpool before a replacement has been brought in during the final week of the transfer window. The Reds had an offer of 110 million rejected by the Magpies at the beginning of the month, and Isak is desperate to leave St. James's Park, having made it clear he sees his future away from Tyneside. Isak, who scored 23 Premier League goals last season, cited a minor injury to keep himself off Newcastle's pre-season tour of the Far East last month and resumed training at the facilities of his former club, Real Sociedad. The Sweden international was absent from the squad that drew 0-0 with Aston Villa in the Premier League last week and will also sit out the visit from Arne Slot's champions on Monday evening, a game which comes 6 days after Isak went public. On his social media account with his desire to move, Newcastle have so far struggled to find an adequate successor to Isak, having failed to land Liam Delap and João Pedro, who both moved to Chelsea, Hugo Ekitike, who signed for Liverpool, and most recently Benjamin Sesko, who opted to join Manchester United for around 73 million. Howe thinks the club's Saudi Arabian owners won't sanction Isak's potential British record departure without having an alternative through the door before the window closes on September 1st. "I don't think the club will allow that situation to happen," Howe said. "We certainly can't go through the season with no recognized striker at the football club, and that's no disrespect to Will Osula. I think he's doing really well and he's progressing really well, but he's got limited experience in the Premier League, although I'm really happy with his career progression. But Alex at the moment would be the only striker we have with Premier League history of goals and appearances and starts, so we can't leave ourselves in that position." On the prospect of Anthony Gordon continuing to lead the line in the absence of Isak, Howe added, "He's an attacker, and he's a very good attacker. The beauty of Anthony when we signed him was he can play right, left, and potentially down the middle. Something that he has done before. He's done it for England, so it's not something totally new to him. I don't think anyone can fill Alex's boots, and Anthony will know that himself. He's not trying to be Alex, he's got to be himself. I think if he'd scored against Aston Villa, you'd go, that's the perfect number 9 performance. I think he had 7 shots in the game, he looked a threat, he got a man sent off. He was using his qualities, which are his pace and his dribbling skills, so I thought it was a really good performance from him. Yes, of course we were missing the goal from the team's overall performance, but hopefully those will come. Alexander Isak already shown exactly how he can redeem himself, despite Liverpool plea. Alexander Isak has made no secret of his desire to leave St. James's Park for Anfield this summer, but a pathway back at Newcastle still remains possible if a move to Liverpool is ultimately blocked. Alexander Isak could take a leaf out of Carlos Tevez's book if the Newcastle striker decides to return to the team and reconsider his reported decision of never playing for the club again. The 25-year-old has been quite open about his desire to leave St. James's Park this summer, with Liverpool being his preferred destination. The current Premier League champions had a 148 million offer turned down for Isak just a few weeks ago. Since then, the Swede has been training alone as he tries to orchestrate a move to Anfield, despite Eddie Howe's readiness to welcome Isak back into the squad once the transfer drama is resolved. It's been reported that the goalscorer has no plans to ever play for the Magpies again. While there's been little word from the Swede's camp over the summer, he broke his silence earlier this week on social media, accusing his club of breaking promises in a clear public plea to make his move to Liverpool a reality. In response, Newcastle issued their own statement, saying that the striker will be welcomed back when he is ready to rejoin his teammates. As things stand, Isak has shown no inclination to reintegrate with his teammates, and he won't be playing against Liverpool on Monday night. However, should the Swede eventually change his mind, or at least accept his situation once the transfer window closes in 8 days' time, he could follow the example set by Tevez, who found himself in a similar predicament nearly 15 years ago, with Manchester City. The future of Argentine legend at the Etihad was thrown into turmoil in September 2011 when he was accused by then City manager Roberto Mancini of refusing to come on as a substitute in a Champions League match against Bayern Munich. Darwin Núñez sends another message to Liverpool as Alexander Isak transfer stalls. Liverpool sold Darwin Núñez to Al Hilal earlier this summer, and the Reds are hoping to bring in Newcastle striker Alexander Isak as his replacement. But the deal has stalled. Darwin Núñez has made an impressive start to life in Saudi Arabia, with the former Liverpool striker finding the back of the net in Al Hilal's final pre-season friendly on Saturday. Núñez joined Al Hilal in a deal worth around $46.3 million earlier this month. The 26-year-old has scored in all 3 of his preseason appearances for his new club, with Núñez on target in wins over Aarau, Waldhof Mannheim, and Al-Fayha. Núñez struggled for consistency during his time at Anfield, managing just 40 goals in 143 games across all competitions, and he had to settle for a bit-part role under Arne Slot last season, with 30 of his 47 appearances coming off the bench. Liverpool have already brought in a new forward this summer, spending $69 million on Hugo Ekitike, and they are also hoping to sign Newcastle striker Alexander Isak. However, they have already had a $110 million offer rejected by the Magpies, who value Isak at closer to $150 million. The Sweden international is pushing for the move and released a statement claiming that Newcastle have broken promises by not allowing him to leave. "I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken," Isak said. "That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interests of everyone, not just myself." However, Newcastle have hit back and insist that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired, and that they do not foresee those conditions being met before the transfer window slams shut. Manager Eddie Howe, meanwhile, is hopeful the situation will be resolved pretty quickly. Speaking ahead of Newcastle's clash with Liverpool on Monday, Howe said, "He won't be part of the squad this weekend. The club has to act in the best interests of Newcastle United. It will do that in every situation it looks like it is coming to an end, or it will come to an end pretty quickly.